A very good afternoon. This is Avinindra Som, and you're listening to the news in detail on Gold FM. Three dead from earthbound collapse in Marvanalla. JKH gives a vote of confidence for the capital market. New tax exemptions for port city investment. At least 4 dead in Michigan church shooting and fire. India triumphs Pakistan to clinch Asian Championship. Controversies continue. Three construction workers were killed in the Marvanella Alutnur area today after a mound of earth collapsed on them during a construction project. Police confirmed that all 3 bodies have been recovered. The incident occurred this morning while the 3 labourers were constructing a wall. A large bank of earth collapsed and buried them. Immediately following the incident, police and local residents launched a rescue operation, utilising backhoe machines to search for the victims. The body of one of the victims was found within minutes of the operation commencing, and the bodies of the other 2 individuals were recovered shortly thereafter. Further details regarding the incident are expected from disaster management authorities. Police report that an individual arrested in the Kottava-Rukmal area with fake number plates, live ammunition and narcotics has been identified as the arms and drug courier for Noma, a chief accomplice of alleged organised criminal Kudu Anju, who is hiding overseas. The arrested suspect is a 24-year-old resident of the Rukmale Road in Kottava. The arrest was made during an operation conducted by the Police Special Task Force based on a tip-off. Items recovered from the suspect include 458 rounds of various ammunition, 1 T56 magazine, 30 forged vehicle number plates, 15 revenue licenses, and 15 insurance certificates. Additionally, over 75 grams of heroin were seized. The suspect has been handed over to the West and South Crimes Division for further investigation. Now, meanwhile, police report that the owner of the company that imported the 2 controversial drug containers was previously accused of involvement in various criminal activities. Furthermore, the suspects arrested with the large consignment of drugs in Tangol, Sinimodra are scheduled to be presented to the Tangol Magistrates Court this afternoon. The funeral and burial of 2 monks who passed away following the tragic incident at the Uyana Aranya Senasana in Melsiripura Kurunagala are scheduled for this afternoon. The local monk, the Venerable Pannipiti Indrabashita Thera, passed away yesterday after receiving treatment in the intensive care unit at the Kurunagala Teaching Hospital for 4 days. The body of the Romanian monk, Venerable Dharmaraj Sithera, was initially planned to be transferred back to his home country, but a decision has now been made to inter the remains in Sri Lanka following consent from his relatives. Both Venerable Dharmaraj Sithera and Venerable Indabashit Thera will be laid to rest at the Melsiripura Punsiyagama Public Cemetery after religious rites today. Final rites for 5 of the 7 deceased monks were carried out the day before yesterday at the same cemetery. President Anru Kumara Dissanayaka, currently on a 3-day official visit to Japan, is scheduled to meet with Japanese Prime Minister Shigeru Ishiba today for discussions. The Presidential Media Division announced that the focus will be on several key areas, including the economies of both nations, investments, development cooperation, and security. President Dissanayaka, who departed for Japan on the 27th after concluding an official visit to the United States, also met with the Sri Lankan community residing in Japan yesterday evening at the Ryukyu Hall in Tokyo. The president is scheduled to return to Sri Lanka tonight. The Russian-assisted nuclear power project in Sri Lanka is in limbo, and it looks like it will continue to be. Now, the feeling was evident after the latest remarks by Russia's ambassador to the island, Levan Zagarian. Sri Lanka has agreed in principle to consider Russia's Rosatom for a nuclear power plant, with proposals including small modular reactors for either onshore or offshore construction. Speaking to the media recently, the envoy's response to a question on the progress on that front left more questions than answers. Now, on previous occasions, Russia had pointed lethargy on Sri Lanka's part in advancing talks on this front.
Let me ask first question. We have some ideas, some proposals, and frankly speaking, I asked for a meeting with the representatives of Atomic Board. We have something to discuss, but I don't want to go into details. But once again, any decision is your sovereign ones. We don't want to impose anything from our side. It's your decision, it's your legitimate right to decide whether to accept it or not.
He also appreciated Sri Lanka's what he called traditional neutral policy and moved to remind that Russia does not interfere in the domestic affairs of sovereign countries. Meanwhile, speaking about Russia's conflict with Ukraine, he gave these thoughts, including the terms to end the conflict.
Once again, we would like to confirm our readiness to start negotiations. Even my President Putin is ready to meet with the ex-president of the Ukraine, Zelensky. We don't accept his legitimacy, but anyway, we also appreciate the policy of the current American administration, led by President Trump, because unlike previous administration, they are ready to listen to us, to understand our concerns and the reasons which forced us to start special military operation in the Ukraine. We have repeated many times what are the reasons of our decision. Also, you know quite well our demands. Ukraine will never join NATO, never, whether Western countries want it or they don't want it. They must have neutral status. We don't want to see military infrastructure of NATO close to our borders. Russian language, Russian people, Russian Orthodox Church, they shouldn't be deprived from the possibility to have their legitimate rights in the Ukraine. And the new 4 regions of the Russian Federation, Donetsk, Lugansk, Zaporozhye and Kherson, are part of the Russian Federation, including Crimea as well, according to the Constitution of the Russian Federation.
He accused certain European nations and the President of the European Commission of attempting to sabotage the peace process.
Some of the European countries are main spoilers. They want to derail this peace process and want to push American administration to join them. The main spoilers are United Kingdom, France, Germany and Poland, including Baltic states. They want to inflict strategic defeat to the Russian Federation. It's impossible. Even President Trump has confessed that it was very difficult to settle down the problem in Ukraine because initially, before he returned to power, he thought it would be very easy, but now he understands this very complicated case. And once again, we must just overcome the obstacles created by leading European countries, including Brussels. Negative role of Ursula von der Leyen, first of all. One of the main spoilers is Brussels, not in the national capacity, but European Union.
An insistence, however, was that a ceasefire is not an option.
We are ready for peaceful talks, not ceasefire, because we were just ready to discuss the issue. Minsk Agreement in 2014, Istanbul Agreements in 2022, and we were deceived many times by our so-called Western partners. So we need strong, reliable guarantees.
The duplicity of international bodies such as the UN and their composition were also called into question.
They push forward Western agenda. They always try to protect Ukrainian, because look, mainly composition of the United Nations Secretariat, representatives of Western countries. There is a lady, she's deputy from Nigeria, Amina Mohammed, but she also is a British citizen as well. They must be to pursue balanced policy. It's very important for high-ranking officials from any international organization, not only United Nations, but also OSCE and some other organizations.
Now, in the meantime, raising capital for large-scale projects couldn't have become a possibility without relying on the island's capital markets. It is impossible to fund these projects simply via bank debt. These thoughts were expressed by a corporate leader who owns the largest conglomerate in Sri Lanka. He said this while addressing the event that launched a comprehensive strategic roadmap themed 12 Pillars, One Vision for a Resilient Market. The event was also addressed by a consultant at the Asian Development Bank, Hiran Mendes. Mendes first commented on the central counterparty framework launched by the Colombo Stock Exchange, during which he highlighted the inclusion of the government debt market into the framework.
Since we have got a CCP and since the chairman also stated that they are in discussion with the central bank to see to what extent the government debt market could also get included in the CCP, I completely endorse that idea. In fact, there were many attempts in the past to make this market one market. And why do we need to make it one market? We need to make it one market to ensure the free flow of capital between markets, so that you improve investor welfare. We are far too small as a market to have an individual equity market or a debt market. As was shown earlier, the corporate debt market is minute. So the corporate development of the corporate debt market, in my opinion, can't be achieved without the consolidation between the government securities market or the government bond market and the corporate debt market. Those are important aspects that we need to consider going forward and trying to see how we can make this entire cake bigger.
He also touched on encouraging the seamless flow of funds between markets.
Consolidating infrastructure, standardizing trading rules for government debt and corporate debt, which I think is a way to go. Optimize resource utilization in doing so. Standardize transaction costs, because that was the issue earlier. One of the issues were that cost of doing business in the stock exchange in terms of transaction costs for debt securities was higher than for government securities. So there has to be some kind of standardization. Encourage seamless flow of funds between marketing. This is the most important aspect that we need to look at in terms of when we look at consolidating infrastructure. To have a system where I as a private investor can take my money out from government securities and put it into corporate debt or government debt and vice versa, and let the economic conditions dictate why I do it. It's fine. But the system has to be in place.
Finally, this is what he had to say about the issuance of blue bonds by taking Sri Lanka's vast exclusive economic zone into account.
I also understand that a particular company, I don't want to name the company, is interested in issuing a blue bond. Fantastic. If you take a look at Sri Lanka's exclusive economic zone, it's much bigger than Sri Lanka, than the area of Sri Lanka. So we have to look at the sea if you are to look at increasing growth rates. And blue bonds, for example, is something that can play a positive role in that area. Then ETFs I spoke of. Structured warrants is something that has been looked at by the SEC. Equity crowdfunding platforms and use of venture capital and private equity.
Now, meanwhile, Chairman of John Keel's Holdings, Krishan Balendra, shared his experience on how capital markets help to fund large-scale projects of his companies.
The City of Dreams or Cinnamon Life project is today the largest private investment ever in Sri Lanka, and that's about $1.2 billion US, and also the Colombo West Terminal, which at $800 million is not too far behind. Of course, here we are we are the second largest shareholder and the main Sri Lankan promoter shareholder, but also a substantial equity investment for John Keel's of about $80 million US. This was done through a very difficult period, 2019 to 2023. We had the 2019 bomb attacks, and then of course the pandemic in 2020, and then the financial or the economic crisis in 2022. So again, we had to rely on the capital markets. We could not have done these very large investments simply through bank debt.
Raising capital for large-scale projects couldn't have become a possibility without relying on the island's capital markets.
Now for some news in brief.
Leader of the Pivitru Helurume, Uday Gammampila, lodged a complaint this morning with the Commission to investigate allegations of bribery or corruption. He alleges that all ruling party members of parliament are misusing public funds by channeling over 30 million rupees per month into a party fund.
The business news on Gold FM.
Chinese electric vehicle maker BYD expects exports to account for around 20% of its global sales this year, driven by new model launches. The company forecasts between 800,000 and 1 million deliveries outside mainland China in 2025, out of a total of 4.6 million vehicles. This marks a drop in BYD's sales target by up to 16% amid its slowest growth in 5 years. In 2024, overseas deliveries accounted for less than 10% of total sales. Now, BYD says its own fleet of car carrier ships will support the export expansion. Bloomberg Intelligence says the Central Bank of Sri Lanka does not need to cut interest rates further, warning that additional easing could drive up imports and make it harder to meet reserve targets set by the International Monetary Fund. The country is aiming to raise its foreign exchange reserves to $9.3 billion by 2026 from the current $6.2 billion. Bloomberg says inflation is likely to pick up and could rise above the central bank's 5% target in 2026 before stabilizing the following year. It also points to a solid recovery in the economy, with a growth of nearly 5% in the first half of the year, supported by rising private sector credit, a rebound in tourism, and government relief measures.
International news on Gold FM.
At least 4 people were killed and 8 others injured after a gunman attacked a Church of Jesus Christ Latter-day Saints in Grand Blanc, Michigan on Sunday. Police stated that the suspect, 40-year-old Thomas Jacob Sanford from Burton, drove a vehicle into the church during a service attended by hundreds, opened fire with an assault-style rifle, and then set the building on fire using gasoline. 2 victims died from gunshot wounds, and 2 more bodies were later found inside the church. Authorities are still searching the damaged building for others who may be unaccounted for. Police exchanged gunfire with Sanford in the church parking lot, killing him 8 minutes after the attack began. Now, the FBI is leading the investigation with more than 100 agents deployed. Investigators are searching the suspect's property and phone records to determine a motive. It was also revealed that the Sanford was a Marine Corps veteran. Michigan State Police confirmed additional bomb threats in other locations, but all were cleared. US President Donald Trump condemned the killings as horrendous, while Mitt Romney, the former governor and presidential candidate, urged prayers for those affected.
Entertainment news on Gold FM.
Now, AI actress Tilly Norwood is attracting interest from multiple talent agents, industry experts revealed at the Zurich Summit, part of the Zurich Film Festival. Tilly Norwood is the first creation of Exioa, an AI talent studio spun off from Patricio 6, the AI production company founded by actor, comedian and producer Ellen van der Velden. Van der Velden revealed that the AI actress has attracted the attention of multiple talent agents, and an announcement about her representation is expected in the next few months. The producer noted a significant shift in the industry, stating that studios that were resistant to AI projects in February had changed their tune by May and were looking to collaborate. Tilly Norwood has already made her debut in a comedy sketch called AI Commissioner, which explores the future of TV development, and she expressed excitement about her first role and what lies ahead.
Sports news on Gold FM.
Now, it was certainly more than just a match, as India beat Pakistan by 5 wickets to retain the Asia Cup at the Dubai International Cricket Stadium. It was the third meeting between the rivals at the tournament, and success for India earned them a 9th title. It was also the first time in 41 years that the two sides met for an Asia Cup final. Both teams again refused to shake hands, and in a remarkable turn, the Indian players declined to accept the winner's trophy. The Board of Control for Cricket in India later said they did not want it presented by Asian Cricket Council President Mohsin Naqvi, who also heads the Pakistan Cricket Board. Made to bat first, Pakistan started superbly, with Shahid Abbas Farhan's 57 and Fakhar Zaman's 46 putting together an impressive opening stand of 84. They rallied up 113 for the loss of 1 wicket with 44 balls left in the innings, but the collapse that followed was certainly dramatic. With the help of left-arm spinner Kuldeep Yadav and some poor shots, India took the remaining 9 wickets for just 33 runs. As a shell-shocked Pakistan were bundled out for 146 with 5 deliveries still left in their innings. India's reply also started early, losing 3 wickets inside 3 overs, but an unbeaten 69 from Tilak Varma, supported by Shivan Dubey and Sanju Samson, guided them home with 2 balls to spare. The reactions to the game have been politically charged. Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi took to the platform X to reference the most recent skirmish between India and Pakistan. His post-read quote, Operation Sindoor on the game's field. Outcome is the same. India wins. Congrats to our cricketers. Unquote. And that's all the news for now. Stay tuned to Gold FM for the latest updates and the next news highlight at 1:30 p.m. This is Avanindra Soma for Gold FM News. Have a great day ahead.